We're already seeing early signs of rainfall. Can you tell the Ghanaian people that NADMO is ready for what is to come?
Thank you very much. NADMO is ready and very ready because we know it is going to be a very difficult period for us. Rainy seasons always come with their incidents, and so before it comes, we prepare and get ourselves ready for it.
I see. How are you preparing?
First of all, we don't wait until the flood comes before, so we do a lot of things before it happens, if it has to happen. So, for instance, we liaise with specifically Ghana Meteorological Service, and we also liaise with the Hydrological Service. These are two institutions that give us the information that will give us a picture of what's likely to happen. And so we liaise with these people for information. And once the information is pointing to the fact that this is how the trend is going to be, we put in place our preparation. For instance, getting the staff and the response units ready to react should there be an incident, preparing the equipment that are supposed to be used when there's an incident. And so the preparatory stage goes with those things. And apart from that, physical preparation is also required. For instance, if it is flooding that we are expecting, what are the things that we can do to help us? So we look at the silting and dredging of water bodies and drains, and putting the people's mind, conscientizing them, especially the staff that are supposed to combat these disasters when they happen.
I see. So what you're telling me is you have two approaches towards the rainy season. You have your reactive preparedness and your proactive preparedness.
Sure.
Now, we've already entered the season. What are some of the things that you have ruled out already?
First of all, Ghana Meteorological Service makes us understand that we are going to have more than usual rainfall. And so that tells us that the situation of flooding may be imminent this year. We are also monitoring the Hydrological Service, their reports. For instance, they are talking about rising water levels at the Wager Dam. And so it's giving us that feeling that we need to get very ready for anything or any possibility.
So which communities are we looking at to suffer from the increased rainfall and perhaps combined with the spillage of the Wager Dam?
Yeah, so for the rainfall pattern, it will affect low-lying areas, and it will also affect settlements that are not well planned. And then we're also looking at even where there's planning, and we ourselves, through human activity, have disturbed the plan. For instance, choked drains, building in waterways. Those are the things that would normally influence the flooding. And so our focus is on those areas where we look at the possibilities of the occurrence.
What specifically will you be doing for residents in those areas?
For now, I think on the 13th of February, I had met all stakeholders in Accra, because the focus is on Accra because the situation looked a bit more serious here. We met and we agreed on the roadmap. That is to trigger the anti-flood response emergency plan, which requires that all district regional bodies, for instance, if you take Accra, the Regional Coordinating Council, the district and the municipalities in Accra, we have staff of NADMO in all these levels. And so they are to trigger their operational plans. That is getting work done. Like I'm saying, where you are supposed to desilt, we start desilting.
Have they started?
Yes.
Okay.
Where you are supposed to dredge, you start dredging. Like I said, we met
In
on the
February.
13th. So work is ongoing to ensure that these things, as much as possible, will work to prevent it. And if it does happen, it should be on a smaller scale. So we are working as an organization. We are not waiting until it happens before we act.
I see. And so your promise to the Ghanaian people is that when we reach the peak of the season and there are even floods, it wouldn't be as bad as before.
I don't want to say it won't be as bad as before, because I will be saying things that I have not seen.
Then you don't trust your preparedness.
I trust our preparedness, but the situation is every year comes with its development. For instance, if we have been told that there will be more rain than usual, then what we have experienced maybe last year, last 2 years may not apply this year. All we have to do is to activate all the preparedness plans that we have. Like I've said, we dredge, we desilt, we make sure machines are put ready, we make sure staff are concentrated and prepared to react swiftly. We also make sure that our interagency working group, for instance, other institutions that have work to do with NADMO to ensure that these things are effectively done. The engineers, the armed forces, engineer corps, fire service, police, even Ghana Electricity Company, because when it rains, electricity also comes into it. And then NADMO has to combat it with the Ghana Electricity Company. And so other agencies are coordinated to ensure that reaction time is swift. We don't wait, then it happens, you don't know which officer to call in Ghana Forces. We are already
I mean,
touch.
how swift would that reaction time be?
Because we are in touch and we know which officer to call in which organization, it will be easier doing that when the situation occurs. But if you don't have identified people to deal with, then it becomes difficult, because you are now looking at calling maybe the operations center, they are looking who is responsible to react. It's going to take some time.
But if NADMO has a foolproof, and by NADMO, this country in general, if we have a foolproof preparedness for any eventualities, then you should be able to convincingly, by conviction, tell the Ghanaian people that even if there are floods, it won't be as bad as before, because you're well prepared.
And that's what I mean. Because we have worked at it. If there will
but
be
you're
flooding,
unable to tell us. I asked you before, you were unable to say so.
The reason why I'm not saying so is that you may go into a football match and lose by 3-0. You think it's because you didn't prepare. Probably if your preparation wasn't adequate, you would have lost by 10-0 or 5-0. That's the scale I am looking at. And as a professional, I don't want to say that it will be less than or won't be as much as what we have seen before. That's why I'm being cautious in answering that the question. But it doesn't mean that we are not ready for it. No.
How is NADMO working together with the task force that was set up by the president to deal with the perennial floods in the country?
We are closely working with them. My deputy director in charge of administration, he has been tasked to work closely with the president's task force. Once in a while, myself, I come in. Yesterday, there was a meeting between us. I attended it myself because it was a very critical one about flood prevention. And so I attended myself. What it is that there's coordination. The purpose of this anti-flooding committee set up by the president is to add weight to our work, add their voice to our work. Where we are talking and people are resisting, when there's a voice from the presidency, it brings that sanity and control. And so we are working together.
I see. That's good to know. However, there are people who have raised concerns over the years about NADMO's ability to respond to disasters in this country. How is that changing under your tenure?
I won't promise a magic one, but I'm saying that with the president's vision for NADMO and what I have been strictly charged to do, by the time we are midway through implementation of these new policies, I can tell you NADMO will be one of the best to react to disaster in the sub-region. We have a clear vision for NADMO, and that is what we are following. Things that we were not doing, we have to start doing them. For instance, when I came, I realized that some of the very important aspects of NADMO's work, for instance, if you take the disaster volunteer groups, they have gone dormant for some time now. These are outlets that they complement the work of NADMO. So our staff are there, but we have enough staff.
What's your staff
over the
strength
country.
now?
For now, I think it's about 5,000 something.
I see, and that's not enough?
It's not enough, because before now, we're talking about 1,000. And so if it is now, then we should be talking about 10,000, 9,000.
When you say before now, what period are we looking at?
Let's just say, when I came, I didn't want to go back too much, but I looked at the last 6 years till now, the labor turnover. If you compare that, then you see that there's a huge gap, because we were about 8,000 6 years ago. So if we are 5,000 something now, that means the labor turnover is very, very high in the institution. And there are other factors that may contribute to that.
What could be the reason for such high turnover? Do you have an idea?
I think one of the major things I feel is pushing people out of NADMO is the conditions of service. Specifically, the salary structure is very, very bad. There's also issues of motivation. People work, they are not getting promotion. People have stayed in the organization, no recognition. People have been maimed on duty, no recognition. So these are the things that tell others, will it be the same thing that I will go through? And so why don't I start looking for a better place? There are things that we have identified, and of course we are going to work assiduously on them to make sure that
improve
people,
conditions of service?
Yes, so that people within the organization would want to stay, because you train people. Some even go on courses overseas, they come back with knowledge, and then they leave. So the organization, NADMO, loses. So if we want to retain knowledge, we want to have quality staff, then we need to ensure that they are happy in their workplace.
I see. And you're working, you say you're working on that. What are some of the changes you hope to apply?
One of the things is that we would work on the scheme of service, the terms and conditions of service, which doesn't exist now.
There's no terms of conditions.
There's no formal document guiding that. And so you cannot tell what Mr. A must do within this and this period to qualify him promotion to the next one.
And how long has that been the case?
I don't want to talk about how long, but this is what I've come to inherit, so it's my duty to ensure that the wrongs are corrected. I'm not normally the complaining type. When they give you us, you inherit both bad and good. So what is good, you enjoy it, and what is bad, you go along with it.
But because it is also public office, the public deserves to know what is going there on there. And so, I mean, your principal may have to take the back seat for public knowledge or public interest.
Yes.
Do you agree with me?
I agree with you, but what you must also know is that when you talk too much about problems, then you become a crying baby. You need to just face them and work on them.
Right.
And that's my principle.
I see. What about relief items? One of the challenges that we have seen with NADMO's response to disasters is the slowness with which you provide relief items to victims and vulnerable people in situations of disaster. Why?
I wouldn't say that it is the slowness or it is slow.
Is it not?
I don't think so. Unless you want to give specifics, which I may be able to explain.
No, but I started by saying this is what we have observed over the years.
Okay, so
specifically speaking, when the situation happened in the fire at a Doom Blue Light Market, it took NADMO a while to send relief items through the office of the your parent ministry,
That's true.
Interior.
That's true.
Yes.
You see, when disaster happens, nobody plans for disaster. That is why it's able to distort the social order. So when disaster happens, it is the duty of NADMO to go in first, combat the disaster. And after the combat, the last phase of disaster management, which is the recovery or restoration stage, comes in. And this stage, you don't rush it. You have to do some assessments. The preliminary one is done to identify the scale of impact in terms of property, in terms of life. And then you look at the victims of the disaster, the impact cost, the degree of loss of these victims. And then when you identify that, you also categorize them into need categorization. This is where you look at people who are very, very vulnerable. And those who are affected by the disaster, they still have capacity to maintain normal life.
I see.
So if you rush into it, you may be doing the wrong thing. Things might even go to the support.
2 weeks is a lot of time in the case of the Dumblu Light Market.
No, it's not a lot of time because you might take time because work with other institutions like fire service, like electricity company, you work with those institutions to come out with some of these statistics. The NADMO officers don't work alone. So you need to get your information right before we respond to it. If you don't get the information right and we start responding, we'll respond and sit back and see that it wasn't actually making an impact or it didn't actually make an impact. So the process that we go through.
So what is the standard time?
It depends on the scale of disaster. For instance, if we take the Edum incident, the standard time shouldn't be beyond 3 weeks. Within a week to 2, we should be able to react to it. So if that period is slow in the eye of the public, it is because probably we don't, we're on the same page. We don't know what goes in before the support comes.
Or it could also be because when disaster happens, we expect to see NADMO there doing their job swiftly and quickly.
That's one you see, except that you want to disagree with me because when disaster happens...
Because by 2 weeks' time, by 3 weeks' time, some victims would probably be dead from the disaster.
No, it is better to get it right than to do it wrongly. Since that incident happened, from the very first day it happened, NADMO officers go to that the disaster site every day to engage those who are affected, to look at property destroyed. They go every day.
Are you unable to respond in a matter of days because NADMO does not have relief items to give?
NADMO always have some relief items. We may not have everything. We may not have all that is required to solve a problem, but there's always a buffer stock because it's an emergency agency. So you should always have something in your warehouse. It may not be enough. And so when it happens, the immediate response is to give what you have whilst you are synergizing resources to give impactful support.
What do you have in your warehouse now?
This time we are going to the rainy season, and so definitely there will be windstorms. There will be roof buildings, schools, especially schools and medical facilities. So what NADMO is, for instance, roofing shades and roofing nails, we are attending to the most needed areas. For instance, if a community is affected by windstorm, we look at the schools first. We look at the medical facilities first. Because pupils need to go back to school. Essential
services.
Yes. Okay. So when we are attending to this one with what we have, we are now synergizing resources, government, our friends from the UN and all of that. So we come in. I always say that.
Let me break down the question. What was the state of the store or your warehouse when you inherited the office?
I want to say that I inherited an empty warehouse, but quickly what I did was to talk to some of the trusted suppliers that give us some buffer stock so that we put it down, because we are expecting disaster. We are expecting issues to happen based on the early warning information we are receiving. So let's get few things there. Whilst we go through the process of reaffirming your contract with the organization, but help us in this regard.
I see. I see. So did you find out why your warehouse, which you inherited, was empty?
I don't want to, like I said, when I take over an office, yes, I investigate to find out people who are culpable in wrongdoing.
Okay.
But that is not my worry, because it is my duty to ensure that the office or the organization continues to function or deliver its mandate. And so I've set up some committees to do the store audits. Some are doing transport audits. They will all come out with their reports, and then I will know what exactly happened. Why was it this way when I came in? And those found culpable, by law, we'll deal with them.
I see. I look forward to seeing that audit. We'll take a quick break at this point. When we come back, we'll look more about, we'll talk more about the fire disaster and what has become of it since the last time NADMO was in the news for the Edum Blue Light market fire. This is Hot Issues. We'll be right back.
These holidays, you don't need to go far to find the best entertainment. Exactly. All you need to do is stay connected to DSTV. Yes, please. Whether you're at home or on the move, make it a holiday to remember. Lewis Hamilton leads on Ferrari debut. Because these holidays, it's your moment to enjoy the best entertainment. Great. Thank you guys for joining us. So get and stay connected to DSTV to enjoy every moment.
Poverty makes you do what you otherwise would not do. Wealth makes you live the way you wish to live. Perfection.
Hot Issues. My guest is Dr. Joseph Bikanyi Kuyon, who's the Director General of NADMO. Doc, again, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
What was the data you collected on the Edum Blue Light market fire?
I think we looked at victims, because our focus was how to react to help the victims get some relief. And so the total number of people involved were about 2,900. And like I said, per need categorization.
2,900?
Yes, almost 3,000 people,
all right.
traders. And these include those who come to pick items from the wholesalers or the retailers, go and roam and sell.
But they don't have stores there.
They don't have stores, but in the evening they bring back the items to the market.
I see.
And the next morning they come to take.
Quite complex.
Yes. So all these people were affected. Their wares were affected. And so we looked at the total number first before we did the categorization as I explained.
Yeah.
And so those who were very, very vulnerable, unable to survive without daily activities in the market, we got under 1,500. And so we tailored our immediate response per that number.
So it's because of those extremely vulnerable people.
Yes.
1,500 of them.
Yes.
That's why you sent the food items.
The food items.
As your
yes.
first.
First response. It was
indeed.
because of those people. Because there are people who are in that market, they have capacity enough to be able to survive or have a normal life with or without going to the markets. We were not focused on those people. These are people that will be part of government's holistic approach to solving the situation after it has happened. But we have people who need immediate help so that within the period that they are having that relief, they can also be looking at possibilities, ways of surviving until they are able to go back to. But immediately they need that relief so that they will have some buffer time to plan their life. This
immediate help you give to the 1,500 vulnerable people, very vulnerable people, is it in response to the president's call on NADMO to attend to victims of the fire, or there's much more help to come?
Exactly, it was the response to the president's call. But like I said, these are immediate support required for the very vulnerable.
Will there be more help for the general populace of the market?
Definitely, because the government will bring interventions to mitigate the losses. Government will bring plans to ensure that they are properly reinstituted into the markets. Government will do things that will support their continuous trading activity. These are detailed responses that government will have to do after certain things have been put in place. For instance, I talked about we getting the data and a comprehensive report is submitted to government. These reports are written, especially in this case where it is fire. The report will be led by Ghana Fire Service because that is their domain. The rest of us are allies. We work hand in hand with them. What information we have, we give to them, and then they will come out with this comprehensive report that will tell government what do we really need. But even before then, government don't sit and wait for the report to come. There are certain things that by common sense we have to start working on them. For instance, did we have the right to be at that place to trade? If we didn't have, there is an opportunity for the owner to say, I'm taking my place back. So,
I mean, that's a completely different realm. But what I want you to explain to me is, NADMO has done its bit. So right now, NADMO taking a back seat from the market fire, because you have given the 1,500 vulnerable people some relief. You're saying that government will now bring through some other interventions. Do those interventions sit at the doorstep of NADMO?
Yes.
I see.
Because I explained somewhere, disaster has different phases. So the phase we are now is the recovery phase, which we call restoration or settlement. It is still within the domain of NADMO. Whatever interventions will come, because it is our mandate to restore victims to normal life. We are going to be involved in the last phase of it, where maybe the right support is given to the right people, and so NADMO have to oversee all of that. We try to educate the public to also work on the victim psyche. Some of them psychologically need to be talked to. NADMO officers interact with these people. We don't sit back after initial reliefs are sent. We are part of the process until the people are fully recovered from the disaster.
I want to talk about the string of market fires that we have seen. Obviously, these are not the kinds that would say are natural disasters. And so, what role could NADMO play? How, you know the way NADMO is preparing for rainfall, and you're putting in proactive measures. What role could NADMO be playing to ensure that really we can mitigate the number of market fires that we see in this country?
One of the problems we have as an institution is that we really don't have legal backing to enforce certain practices
Right.
that we would have wished are infused into our social life. And so that is the problem with NADMO. The causes of these fires, we would definitely see the reports that come about why these fires happen. But most importantly, what we need to look at is what we are doing, like you are saying, to ensure that we reduce or probably stop these things from happening. What we are saying is that NADMO would work with government, would work with other agencies that would enhance our legal status so that NADMO can enforce certain things. For instance, if we are building a market,
Right.
nobody makes recourse to NADMO. We only talk about the works and housing people and then the local authorities, the district administration, regional, and those things. We don't count NADMO as part of it. But NADMO have a very essential role to play when it comes to settlement or construction work, because every public place needs to have some form of disaster risk advice given before it is done, before it is constructed, so that these are things that would either help prevent, or even if it doesn't prevent disaster like the fires, it will reduce its occurrence.
I see. I mean, but you know, the Ghana National Fire Service is also making the same demand. Would it be duplicitous to have both the fire service and NADMO on teams for public sector constructions like markets?
Yes, that is why we work together with these other institutions. We all have our roles to play. They are to look at the technical construction in relative to fires. We are looking at disaster risk reduction.
Right.
And so they will look at theirs from their face, from their lens. We look at ours from our lens. And together with the local administration, whether the district or regional administration, we work with the engineers and have a holistic project so that the project doesn't lack certain things that can cause problems for us in the future.
I see. So for the Doom Blue Light Market, is the report ready?
I have to check from our ally, the fire service, where they put this thing together, submitted to the president. Yesterday, we had a meeting, but on flood, so that didn't come up. I should have asked whether that has been done. But one thing about Kumasi, when I got to Kumasi, I realized, you know, I went with the sector minister. And so we met the regional minister. What we realized was that he's been very, very proactive in his actions. He didn't wait for the sector minister to come with me. He had already initiated certain processes to ensure that what we are talking about, working to ensure life returns to normal and all that, he was already working on it. So we only went listening to him, and where we have to add input, we added. And I think by now they should be getting somewhere.
Have you been able to quantify how much was lost to the fire yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We'll get to that.
All right. One of the challenges that we've known for NADMO is funding. Do you have money?
NADMO funding, if you look at the National Disaster Management Fund, it was established way back when President Rawlings was there, I think 1996. But what we failed to do was to make the fund self-sustaining. So there's no identified constant inflow into it. We rely on government voting some money into the fund, some individuals and agencies contributing to the fund. And so when it is exhausted...
But over the years, there have been amendments to the act that establishes NADMO. Now we know there is statutory funding as well for NADMO. You don't get that money?
No, that comes as a budget. The budget funding always comes. But this fund, which was established, had its role to play.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that apart from what you're going to get from the budget through your
Yes,
parent
yes,
ministry,
yes, yes.
there is also a quota of a tax that we pay in this country that is supposed to go into the disaster management fund. It doesn't happen.
I don't want to say it doesn't happen, but the fund is not sustaining because there are times where we don't have money in the fund. If it was working effectively, what it means is that anytime you have something small, regardless of how big or small, it should be there. But there are times the fund is exhausted, probably because of incidents that occur within the period. And so you are waiting for something to come in. You have government will have to intervene.
I mean, you just came, so I can hold you to, you know, to account for that.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to understand is, did you come and meet money?
I am talking as the new leader of the organization.
Yes.
And so, like I told you from the beginning, when you inherit an institution, you inherit good and bad. Your focus should be how to make it work and not things that happen.
So the fund is empty?
We have a budget to work with.
You have a budget coming through your parent ministry?
Yes.
Some allocation has been made?
Yes, of course.
How much?
This year, I think budget for NADMO for goods and services is about 10 million.
10 million.
But there is always a buffer or a room for backup. For instance, NADMO is given room to request for emergency purchases.
Okay.
So after this one has come from the sector ministry, you can estimate the imminence of disaster that is ahead of you. And then you can request for certain purchases to be made so that you be in readiness before the disaster happens. So these are other ways
Don't you
funding
find that bureaucratic if you have to wait for something to happen?
We don't wait.
You see, what I see then is bureaucratic, and then it also tells me that as a country, we are not giving priority to an organization like NADMO that is there to help us in our very vulnerable times.
I don't agree with you because I just said that we have a window to request for.
I know. What I'm asking you is how long does it take for that window to open and bring in funds?
So we didn't talk about that.
Okay, tell me.
Once you request for the funds, once it is for emergency purchases, they give us what they call clearance. We don't wait for the money to hit our accounts. We have trusted contractors and suppliers. Once they give clearance, you ask the suppliers to bring the goods.
Okay.
And then you know that you are safe. Then you wait until the money comes, then we pay them.
Right. So again, so it brings me to my point. Wouldn't it be easier if we cut out that for real emergent situations or real emergencies and give NADMO the money they need?
It will be very good if we are able to have cash with us to do cash purchases. You know, anytime you are buying on credit, suppliers will factor the period that it will take for them to get their money. They look at inflation, they look at exchange rate, and so the prices won't be the same, like buying with cash.
Right.
But for the sake of accountability, some of these processes are put in place just to ensure that people don't abuse it. That you do your estimate, we'll give you the go ahead and get your suppliers to supply, and then we pay them. So nobody has access to free cash to misbehave with it.
I see. So you've been able to tell us how much you're expecting from your parent ministry through the budget for the fiscal year. But you can't tell us what you have inherited in the fund. So we can conclude that the fund is empty.
No, we cannot conclude that the fund is empty. Like I said, it is good we settle with the fact that NADMO is always ready. Whether we have cash or not, we have arrangements that work to enhance our work, make us in ready put us in readiness to deliver what is expected of us. We have always gone around it, with or without the car sitting down. Like even the emergency pages, when you request, they will give you the authorization, and then they will supply. Later you pay them. So it's everybody's business.
I see. So what about equipment? And I ask for equipment because during the Mepe floods, there were reports that NADMO officials, and this was before you took office, that NADMO officials had turned up empty-handed, and the complaint was that they didn't have the equipment to be able to help people immediately. What have you inherited as far as equipment is concerned?
Equipment very bad because woefully inadequate. Woefully inadequate. Even the PPEs, the personal protective equipment, we are lacking it. Like people, they said somewhere that they came with empty hands. Sometimes it's not their fault. One of the new things we are trying to do in NADMO is to have outfield warehouses that would support the emergency operation units out there, so that we don't always need to carry things from head office to, let's say, my hometown, Chinderi, or northern region, or in the western region. We should have warehouses that give proximity to these emergency operation units, so that we are able to resource them effectively. They need something, it has to come from Accra. That's not the best way to go about it.
I see. That's the protocol now.
That's what we want to do now.
No, the protocol now is if your stations across the country need something, they come to head office
because
for it.
We don't have warehouses out there.
So now you want to ensure
we
that...
We want to ensure that we have warehouses out of Accra that are stationed strategically,
okay,
to be able to support these EOCs.
That's awkwardly interesting to know that we didn't have warehouses for NADMO across the country, and they always needed to come to Accra.
Even now, we are relying on national security to support us. Our warehouses, what we have is quite small, and looking at the scale of stock that we should keep. So national security have created a space for us in some of their warehouses that we are using. And so, for me, it's not strange that we don't have those outside Accra. Even in Accra, we need support from somebody.
So you talked about PPEs. What other equipments do you need?
In terms of rescue equipments, for instance, not all our outstations have vehicles. And not all the outstations have, even regional level, we don't have equipment like dozers, excavators, and tipper trucks that are required to support our work. The boats that we need to have in terms of flooding.
You don't have any at all?
Very few we have, but very few.
Oh, I see.
They cannot support. And we also need what we call capacity building in terms of staff. So the staff that we have, are they well trained to use some of these equipment that are required, like the technical rescue equipment, high-rise buildings and all of that. So we're also looking at staff training, where we would have very capable staff that will be able to, not just the equipment, but we should also get ready staff.
I see. So your observation is that your current staff needs some training and retraining.
A lot of training, a lot.
I see. They don't have training, so they can't save us at this time. Eh?
They can save us, but it will be better. They will be able to do better if they are well equipped with training and knowledge.
I see. I want to take another break. When we come back, we'll look at some of the external challenges that you face trying to be proactive in the face of disasters or in the prevention of disasters. You're watching Hot Tissues. I'll be right back.
Emma, what are you watching? Only the best thing ever. Because these holidays, the joy never stops. Picture this. The home is filled with low moments and intense drama from the local shows. With Serie A, Premier League, and even WWE. The kids are hooked up with adventures and fun learning.
Yes! I love pie.
I love you and pie. So stay connected to entertainment anywhere with GoTV. GoTV, love it.
Welcome back. We're discussing our preparedness for disasters, particularly with the onset of the rainy season. At this time, my guest is Director General for NADMO, Dr. Joseph Bikai Kuyong. Doc, again, thank you so much. We are almost done with our conversation here. What are some of the challenges that you face externally trying to be proactive?
Some of the things that inhibit our work, we work hand in hand with other organizations. Sometimes work that you could have expedite action if it were internally done may delay because you have to wait on every other party to submit or play their role.
I see.
For instance, if you talk about this global framework for disaster risk reduction, which is being championed by the United Nations, we call it the Sendai framework. When I took over, even 2023 report was still pending. And I saw it as unacceptable. So I called for a meeting of stakeholders and I impressed on them. It was necessary that we work on some of these reports to be able to present them on time so that we'll be seen as a serious country. Once you are not able to meet your deadline, it means you are not working. You cannot give reason. And so from then, I think we had just about 2 weeks for the deadline. And so the meeting was timely, that people were encouraged. And I made my focal person to roam from institution to institution, go there and force them. Let them give us the information, the data we need, so that we can make the report and submit. Thankfully, as short as the time was, I think we were able to meet the deadline to submit the report before it expired.
I mean, which is the point I've been making from the beginning, that certain actions that we refuse to take or take, you know, talks about how unserious we are about disasters in the country. And you are trying to change that.
Yes, I'm trying to change that seriously, because why would you be required to submit a report at this time? And then the whole year, what would you be doing that the time comes to elapse and you cannot submit your report? If it is the people that you don't have the requisite, like I'm saying, staff training is one of those things. I wouldn't employ somebody as a leader at the district, at the region, that don't have requisite qualifications. Somebody who does not even understand what you call data. I won't put you there. I'll put the people with requisite qualification so that the information I need, they can get it from me.
So we have to get some qualified people.
We have to ensure that the people there are up to the task, that they will be able to get us information so that we can react to some of these things timely. And so some of these are external challenges. If even you do so in your institution, what about the other institution? We have to encourage each other. And that is why I also believe in close coordination. Like I went to Ghana Meteorological Service soon as I took over office. It was to ensure that that closeness is established, that whatever is happening in GMET is transmitted immediately to NADMO, whatever we are supposed to
And
do.
that's your early warning system?
Yes.
Okay.
So that we have people in their forecast room. As the forecast comes, it's done straight to our operations room.
Has it always been the case that you have NADMO people in the forecast room?
It is now that we are working on that. We've agreed in principle. I'm supposed to scan about 2 officers to that department so that they will be in the forecast room to give us real-time information. Once we have it, we have a radio network that we can reach out to whichever locality that's expected to suffer from this disaster or effect, whether it is rain or whatever. then we can alert the field officers in those areas to start engaging the community.
Would you then say that we are working on our early warning systems?
The early warning system have always been there. What we are doing now is to improve on them, make them much more effective.
So we had an obsolete early warning system.
I don't want to say obsolete. Every
then
day,
what would you describe it?
You see, the world is evolving. Every day, new ideas come. Even this one that I've told you, behind the scenes, government is engaging some experts where we can reach the stage of digitalization, where if there is a forecast, it appears on your phone. So wherever you are, you know that my area is not going to be safe in the next 31 hour. Those things are being done. So every day we work at improving on what we have.
Right. So indeed, I come back to the point that before now, what did our early warning system look like? Before you came in and decided that we need improvement and we need digitalization in the future, what did our early warning system look like?
It was that people will have to listen to radio, people will have to watch TV, and then the message to NADMO was done by either email or text, whatever. And so if the officer does not go to email, does not watch the phone to see the message from Matthew,
then we are caught off guard.
If somebody does not listen to radio or does not watch TV, you are ignorant about what is going to happen.
That is not an early warning system. In fact, that is just monitoring.
No, it's a system.
It can't be a system when you have to rely on radio. You have to rely...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Direct messages are sent from Matthew to NADMO. But these are not NADMO officers there to call on their radio network. Remember what we are asking for now. Once they call on the radio network, even the local office have a radio.
So now we are creating a network that will look like a system.
So once you call...
For early warning of disaster.
Yes, even while they are talking to the operations room to give you directive, you are also listening to it and making your plans as to how to react.
You seem to have a lot of work on your hands to do.
Huge one.
Huge.
Very huge.
One of the, or some of the organizations you have to work with, the various regional ministers, local government in these areas, Ministry of Works and Housing as well. How are you collaborating with them to tackle one of our biggest problems, for which reason we see floods every year in this country, drainage and zoning?
Yeah, like I said earlier, we are working closely with these other government
Have you made any moves already in terms of...
already, because like I told you, I've been to Matthew. We are booking an appointment for me to see fire service. We will go to hydrological service. We will go to all these people and make sure that they give me designated officers, that my office can reach out to them.
How about the ministries?
Yes,
because we need to work on our drains. We need to work on where people are building.
I'm coming to that.
Okay.
So apart from that coordination, I am also working closely with the assemblies and then the regional administration. You heard that I think on Thursday, some structures around the Bawe area were pulled down. We have already formed the task force with though we don't have the MCs and DCs, the Greater Accra Regional Minister, together with me, have put up a task force where we have all other agencies as part of that task force. The Ghana Armed Forces have given us engineer experts, they are part of the task force. The Works and Housing Ministry is part of the task force. So we go as a team. Where technocrats are to come in to advise, they come in to advise that this is the best way to do it. And so we are already working together with the local administration.
Does NADMO have temporary shelters for people?
We have what we call safe havens.
Right.
We don't have enough temporary shelters. We may have tents, but I believe that if you have things like rough halls, they are much more good enough for accommodation than tents. So we are working on ways to secure some of these things that will help when disaster strikes us. So we don't have enough. If you have to speak for us, so that people will come to support, so that we will be a resilient nation.
If there's a flood in the next couple of days, would you say now that NADMO is ready to step in?
In fact, if flooding starts, even now that we are doing this interview, I don't need to walk to my office because operational procedures have been set in place. They will react appropriately.
And you're satisfied with NADMO's capacity?
For now, what we have tried to as much as possible maximize its effect. And so I won't say that it is enough because we need to improve to become better. But what we have now, if there was flooding, even now that we are sitting here, I can tell you that reactions will not delay. And I don't need to be there because we've already activated the response plan. Everybody knows what to do.
We don't call for floods, but if it does happen,
don't worry,
we'll see how it goes.
You can call me back, I'll come here and we'll talk about it.
I appreciate your confidence. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Joseph Bikai Kuyong is my guest here on Hot Issues. We've been discussing the country's preparedness towards any man-made or natural disasters to come, particularly with the onset of the rainy season. If you missed this episode, you find it on our socials, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X.com. I am Keminni Amanor. That'll be all from us. Bye-bye.